The Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, and the Golden State Warriors have all been rumored to be on Jimmy Butler's wish list to get traded to. Those are the three teams that are in the running right now for Jimmy Butler, according to all these rumors. We've heard Sham say Phoenix also, but Jimmy Butler's agent has refuted that, saying that that's not true. So those three teams are the ones that are heavily rumored to be interested in getting Jimmy Butler. So I decided to do some research to see what trades could be made with either of these three teams and who benefits the most from a Jimmy Butler trade. So I did the NBA trade machine on ESPN to see how each team could trade for Butler. Granted, this might be a little bit off because I didn't do three-way trade, but the more I look at this, the more it seems likely Jimmy Butler's contract is so big, you might have to include a third team in this deal. But if you just do it with just strictly two teams being involved, just about every team would have to trade a lot to get Jimmy Butler outside of the Houston Rockets. So let's see how much the Warriors would have to give up for Jimmy Butler just to make the contracts match. And I did the most generous trades for all these teams, just trying to add up the contract numbers. So I've done a proposed trade with Golden State that would send Andrew Wiggins, DeAnthony Melton, Jonathan Kuminga, and Lindy Waters just for Jimmy Butler. So it took four of these guys to get Jimmy Butler. I would say Wiggins and Kuminga are two players who are above average that the Warriors that have needed to compete this year in a lot of games. So they're a valuable part of the current Warriors core, which I can't say is really a great core, but they're a valuable part of that. It's safe to say Riley will probably demand these two guys for sure in a trade. DeAnthony Melton has been solid for the Warriors whenever he's played this year. Lindy Waters is just a regular okay player. So that's a lot for the Warriors to give up, and we haven't even factored in draft picks. If Riley would demand draft picks out of them, Riley is a great negotiator, and I think he'll demand a lot for Jimmy Butler. So let's say they throw in a few picks. Now, would this be worth it for the Warriors, knowing how much depth they're going to lose? Then you put Jimmy Butler with Steph and Draymond. I still don't think that would be enough for them to win a title. I still think they're in a bad spot because their depth is shot up. They're a weaker team from a depth standpoint. And I don't think Butler, as good as he is, just takes them to another level with what they have around him. I just think it's a lose-lose for them if they pull this trade. Heck, I would like to see this trade only because I think Butler and Draymond Green are two malcontents. They both have toxic personalities, so I think they would collide in the locker room. That would be very entertaining. So maybe that'll happen. I don't know, but I don't think the Warriors will ever trade Draymond in a trade to Miami. Just Draymond's protected. Steph Curry wants him there forever, so he'll be there forever in Golden State. So that's why I look at it. Golden State weakens themselves if they do the deal for Jimmy Butler, unless they can get a third team in there to save some of their depth. So that's another thing to factor in. Let's go to the Dallas Mavericks. So I tried to be generous with the Mavericks here on the trade machine and tried to give them the easiest combination of players to send for Jimmy Butler. So in my proposed deal, I have PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, Quentin Grimes, and Dwight Powell for Jimmy Butler. This trade gets approved. I think, let me see what type of season Grimes is having. I look at these players. I think losing PJ Washington would hurt the Mavericks pretty badly, and Gafford. They lose a lot of size when you give up two of those guys. I'm just going to look up. Let me just look up. I want to look up Quentin Grimes, what type of season he's having. Let's see. I don't think he's having anything. Okay, he's actually a solid role player this year, surprisingly. So they lose depth in that department to give him up. Let me see who else is on here. Let's see how Maxi Kleber is doing. He's been kind of like an up and down role player for them in previous years. I'm just going to pull up his numbers. Maxi Kleber. Let's see. Yeah, Maxi Kleber has been a non-motherfucking factor, as you would say. His numbers this year are trash. So they don't lose nothing by giving up Kleber in this trade. But they will lose out on Grimes, Gafford, and Washington, who are all very good role players for them this year. And Powell, I don't think Powell's having an amazing season. Let's see what Dwight Powell is doing this year. Yeah, Dwight Powell has been trash too. So he's been garbage. So basically, in this trade, the Mavericks still get hurt, I think, even though Kleber and Powell are just complete garbage. But you lose a lot of depth in losing PJ Washington, Gafford, and Grimes. So you're going to lose size when it comes to your rim protection. You lose a lot of size, and you have to rely heavily on Lively to anchor your paint defense. Maybe Jimmy Butler can make up for that on the perimeter with what he can provide, and you can offset those losses of PJ Washington, Kleber, and Quentin Grimes. But I still think it would really hurt them depth-wise. So that trade might not be worth it for the Mavericks unless they can find a way to replace the size they would lose in that deal. I think they would have to find a way to replace it somehow. I don't know how they can do it, but this is another way a third team could be important. So they might be able to gain from it. I think that's an iffy. Just that's something we have to wait and see. Now I want to go to the Houston Rockets. This is the team I think they can benefit the most from a Jimmy Butler trade. It was the easiest team to make a trade with, to be honest, in a two-team swap. I was able to trade Fred VanVleet and Tate for Jimmy Butler. So Tate has been garbage for the Rockets this year, so that's not a loss. And Jimmy Butler's numbers are clearly better than Fred VanVleet's. So already the Rockets gained by getting Jimmy Butler. VanVleet is probably their best playmaker, I would say. When it comes to the Rockets, Jimmy Butler is good enough playmaker, I would say, where he can make up for that loss. Now they may lose some guard play by losing Fred VanVleet, but I think they could overcome that loss. So I think Houston by far would benefit from the Jimmy Butler trade compared to these two other teams. And I think he would fit really well in their system. They're a defensive-oriented team. Jimmy's big on defense. And I think he would click with Udoka. Udoka is all about defense. So I think Houston would be the perfect match for Jimmy Butler. And they probably have a few draft picks where they can throw in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, because of all these trades that have occurred over the years. But I think they might have a few draft picks they can throw in there. Houston, to me, is really the best team when you look at what can be moved around for Jimmy Butler, where they could benefit the most and not really lose anything. They can just pick up, and Butler can impact their team positively and maybe take them to the next level, possibly. Just get them to a deep playoff run. I think Houston would be the best place suited for him. That's a team to keep a lookout on. They're positioned in the best way to get him compared to the Mavericks and Golden State Warriors. So that's what I have to say about this.